Well, let's continue where we have left. Um, well, I have already told you that the Bretton Woods system, as a system which was actually controlling the exchange rate of the different countries, was removed, and when it was removed, basically, or you might call collapsed or ended, basically. Those are also words you can use. Um, well, this has created first a system where financial markets, just like other markets, basically labor market might be an example there also, were liberalized. Now, exchange rate of the countries can move easily up and down, and as I said, that was one of the basic consequence of that. And what does it bring? Can be a big question. First of all, I mean, according to certain people, this is something beneficial because artificially high interest rates created by fixing exchange rate certain value, or even allowing exchange rate to fluctuate between a certain boundary, create its own problems. Basically, it becomes impossible to keep the exchange rate at that kind of a high value. But also the fluctuating interest exchange rates might create a kind of instability in a country. Basically, especially the investors might not know how much money, how much dollar it will worth when they got their money back. That itself might make them reluctant to invest certain countries. Of course, when you look at the global level, US is the main currency which you can buy and sell. The US dollar is the main currency which you can use, buy and sell goods in the world scene. So in the end, US is kind of immune from this the effects of the flexible exchange rate. Although we will discuss also US case when we are looking to the financial system. But at least, I mean, at the international level, they got their money. Usually, it's easier for them to get any money they have lent to other countries back in dollar form, and easily they might make agreements in dollar form at the international scene. So that what they got from the international actors will be, in that sense, in their own money, and what they will pay to the international actors will also be in their own money. But for the actors which get a different currency as their revenue, and maybe a different currency they need to pay for as their costs because of imports, for example, that might be a problem. That might create certain risks, and that's one point on the financialization. So leaving financial system itself to run according to the rules of the market. And then removal of the capital controls is another aspect. When the financial capital is moving to a country, it is or getting out of the country, especially in that case, of course, usually the controls were in. Certain countries were taxing basically the capital, and in some cases, even, for example, I mean, the amount of capital, financial capital, the money that could be removed from the country might even be limited. Certainly for individuals, it could be limited. For example, in China, when I went to China and make education there, I needed a special permission to change yuan I have earned as my income to euro amount, which was equal to almost more or less 2,000 euros. In case of euro, the biggest banknote with highest value is 500 euros, you might know. So in the end, I got 4 banknotes with 500 euros, represent 500 euros. And to get those for 400 euros, I need to get a special permission. But according to certain views, those capital controls, which might be in form of restrictions, but which might be also done in forms of taxes. I mean, taxing people who want to remove that capital, might be beneficial because it will basically, I mean, when capital moves away, it will basically devalue your currency. And any investors who invested in your country and get their revenues in your country's currency might be harmed as a result. So basically, when you restrict capital mobility, that might stabilize your currency and maybe encourage your investors to stay in your country, especially the long-term investors. But also, the inability to move the capital from your country in a free way, I mean, without paying any tax, might also discourage people because now they are restricted with the rules. So those two competing views were kind of there, but mostly, I mean, with Reaganism and international trend of freer markets, the capital controls were mostly removed in many countries. Not China, but many countries, everyone with Turkey also was one of them. And then you have easy access to credit. I mean, that should be obvious if you look to 1970s. In 1970s, getting a debt from the bank was something difficult. Now, it is much more easier in many forms, at least. I mean, getting debt to buy a house, buy an automobile, for an indication is much more easier in many countries. And also, right now, I mean, even for basic types of credit, you need to go to the bank and do all the sign papers, talk with the people. Now you don't need to do that. You can do it even from your computer or from your cell phone even. So, and even in some cases, I mean, the banks say, I mean, our credits are so affordable, so beautiful. Why don't you get a credit? So the bank is ironically trying to convince you to get credit from it, to borrow money from it. So I say, I don't need that money. They say, why don't you that money? You basically can get money borrow from me money and buy, for example, to yourself a house. For example, there was a very famous advertisement in Turkey, which was actually, I might have told on this in a different course or even in this course before, but this is also very relevant to this point. A lady is talking and he has bring a special type of plates to the table, and she told, well, these are from my grandmother's, and my mother, whenever we told her to get those plates out and eat with them, she always told us, well, we should eat with those plates when we have our own house. Which means actually they did not have their own house, they have rented apartments before. She told, now we can eat with those plates. I wish my mother, you can also see this. So the mother had died, but they have bought their house. And then it says, don't postpone your dreams. Demirbank, which was the bank name, the name of the bank. I believe it was Demirbank. I might be wrong. It might be another bank. The main point is, don't postpone your dreams. But how do you fulfill your dreams? You fulfill your dreams by getting credit from the bank. So you got your home, but you are indebted to the bank. So that's another interesting development. I mean, end result is also interesting. I mean, you have increasing number of people all over the world. Some people might think this is something just happening in Turkey, but all over the world you have increasing number of people who are indebted to the banks. And then you have increased mobility of the capital. I mean, capital can move much more easier, also in technical sense, much more easier from the countries, which might create several problems because, I mean, capital might move to your country in an excessive amount, which might be something good, you might be happy about it, but in an overnight it might go away, and it might create shortage of money in your country. Money companies need to borrow to pay their debts, pay their costs, because investors in many ways also do the investments by assuming that they will be able to borrow money from the financial system. So this financialization, increased liberalization, and increase the size of financial system, increased reliance on debt, and this the financial investors that are moving very fast from different locations in the world to other locations. This is an interesting case, and this is a reality of the post 1980 financial system, and it's still a reality today. It's nothing new, actually. Of course, the financial system was never as massive as it was today, but its relative increase in relative size also happened at the end of the British period. That was the time of, for example, the Rothschilds, very famous Rothschilds, and it was time when for example, even Marxian scholars talk on this financial capital and its dominance, its control over the rest of the capital. To some extent, it also happened at the end of the 18th century with the Dutch bankers, even Italian bankers at the end of the 15th and 16th century. I mean, this increased size of the financial sector in Italy in a much miniature scale, of course, compared with the current and even British case, basically. So the question becomes, is this increase in financial sector a symptom of unsustainability of the system? I mean, are more and more actors just need to borrow now because their own funds are not enough? Or is this just something that actually creates makes the system more stable, because now financial system can aid the agents, and basically those agents, with the help of the financial funds, whenever they need those funds for investments, can work more efficiently. I mean, now we can get this money from financial system, increase our living standards, and then pay incrementally for the cost of this. I mean, we first increase our living standards or increase our productivity and then pay the financial system. Is this the case? Or is the case rather we can only maintain our living standards, we can only still be in the middle class, for example, with the financial debts we get? It's a big, again, one of the biggest discussion of the latest economic, the latest trends in our economic system. I don't answer all the questions. I state them. I sometimes state different ideas, and I like leaving questions to you in all courses, but in this course specifically, because this is the fourth, this is the course you take in your last year in economics, basically, mostly. And if you are interested in this course, it's also a course which basically sets questions in the mind of you, and basically let you to think about those questions, especially the ones you are interested in. If you are taking this course outside of economics department, this is that type of a course. It gives you the tools, but it also expects you to answer different questions that are raised on the world economy. And in many ways, I mean, many of these questions don't have a definite answers. I can give you one view, but there are different views on these questions. So there is no one settled view for most of these questions. One definite answer doesn't exist. So next we will review some trends. So let's do it in the next part since we are very close to 15 minutes mark.